I think I'm entitled.
You want answers!
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work. When you go to church. When you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Remember when the Queen came to our school? How she took away those 10 kids? Yeah, I checked on that. She was definitely in BC in the fall of '64. I remember their names. Some of them, the boys. I pull out my notepad. There was Harvey and Ralph Parker, Métis boys from Lytton. They were in the group taken away by the Queen and Philip after the picnic at Dead Man's Creek. 5 other boys went, and 3 girls. They were all in the smart group in school. The 10 children were never seen again.
Here is Kevin Annett, a pastor who's been warning about the abuse of children in Canada, but with links back to Britain. He's now been banned from Britain.
And links to the Crown as well. Our Queen and Prince Philip going out to Canada and taking 10 children from the smart class of a school, and those kids never been seen again, and made to kiss our Queen's feet.
So, Leah McGrath Goodman, you've been banned from entering the UK due to your investigative reporting into sex crimes in Jersey.
The following quote comes from UK MP Tom Watson. Evidence file used to convict paedophile Peter Wrighton, if it still exists, contains clear intelligence of a widespread paedophile ring. One of its members boasts of his links to a senior aide of a former Prime Minister who said he could smuggle indecent images of children from abroad. The leads were not followed up, but if the files still exist, I want to ensure that the Metropolitan Police secure the evidence, re-examine it and investigate clear intelligence suggesting a powerful paedophile network linked to Parliament and Number 10.
He was one of the Liberal Party's most senior MPs and a leading figure in national politics. But Cyril Smith was a serial paedophile who abused dozens of young boys and was never prosecuted. Tonight, new evidence has emerged revealing how MI5 and Special Branch buried his crimes. An investigation for Channel 4's Dispatches programme tonight has uncovered a police file which accuses him of a sordid series of indecent episodes with young boys. It was handed to prosecutors but then hidden and locked away for more than 4 decades. Smith went on abusing for years.
Lancashire Police, Special Branch and MI5 all knew about the extensive allegations.
Child abuse is not just about old men in dirty old coats, you know what I mean? We're now talking with Jimmy Savile, we're talking about politicians coming into the affray. We're talking about Secret Service people coming into the affray. There were Secret Service people going to Haute de la Garenne and politicians from other countries, and they were abusing children. And some of them were paying to murder children. Babies, whatever they could get.
Anyway, the man the NSPCC have called Britain's most dangerous and prolific child molester ever, Jimmy Savile, spent 11 successive New Year's Eves at Chequers, the most powerful residence in the land, as a guest of Conservative Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. And today's police report on the 450 abuse crimes Jimmy Savile committed and the 34 known rapes begs the question, why was none of this published or reported in Britain's so-called free press, nor noticed by the police and prosecuted by them until after he was dead? Then there is the Lord McAlpine case. Evidence of McAlpine's innocence from paedophile involvement has still not been tested in court. Chris Patton's BBC caved in and settled out of court. The BBC is, of course, heavily implicated in Savile's paedophilia, allowing sexual assaults to take place on BBC premises. And I suppose I ought to also point out that both Lord McAlpine and Chris Patton are both Tories. There is still our own Bristol case as well. BBC presenter and child molester Peter Rowell, who's now in jail. He was also one of the Prince Charles's ambassadors entrusted with assessing young people as part of the Prince's Trust scheme. So today, maybe some closure for victims and their families if they're still alive, but still no justice. Those that censored the transmission of Liz McKean's December 2011 Jimmy Savile Newsnight expose are still working at the BBC. Only the Director General George Entwistle was given a big payoff to walk. BBC under former Bath Tory MP and Cabinet Minister Chris Patton, of course they're both colleagues of each other. So I spoke to Michael Shrimpton about this very issue and first put to him questions about the Jimmy Savile and if he thought that the Tory party had really come clean about what Savile had been up to.
I'm Michael Shrimpton. My day job is barrister. I used to be an immigration judge many years ago. My other job is as an intelligence and national security consultant. I've just written my first major book, Spy Hunter. We weren't getting anywhere in the intelligence community. We were being blocked persistently and consistently in London and Washington, and it seemed to me that only by bringing public pressure to bear on politicians could you actually get anywhere. It's extraordinarily frustrating. Intelligence is about speaking truth to power, but if there's nobody in power able to act on the intelligence, then it's a little bit pointless gathering it in the first place. There are people still alive who are involved in the paedophile scandal, and obviously I'm not going to name them on a radio program, but the most prominent paedophile associated with the Savile ring was a man called Edward Heath, who you may recall was Prime Minister and took us into the EEC. And Heath was recruited as something that Christopher Story published in 2005, something which was confirmed to me by General Obus Marcus Wolf of the DVD and the Stasi. Heath was recruited by the Germans in 1937. I've said this in Spy Hunter. Heath was into little boys, and Savile was supplying them. A number of these boys were taken out of the Haute de Garenne home in Jersey. Savile was taking children from a children's home with the support of German assets in Jersey. Remember, the Germans used to run Jersey, and whenever the Germans overtake somewhere, there's always a stay-behind intelligence organization. German assets didn't pull out of Jersey in 1945. Only German troops marched out, they surrendered. The German intelligence operation in Jersey stayed on after 1945. Jersey was very important to the Germans because of offshore financing, because we do a lot of our offshore financing through Jersey. The banking in Jersey is quite interesting. And what was happening was that children's homes in the Channel Islands, particularly at de Garenne in Jersey, children were being taken from these homes, boys, in the case of Edward Heath, as he was gay, and a paedophile, were being taken onto his yacht, the Morning Cloud. There were in fact several Morning Clouds, but there was one in particular which won the Sydney Hobart yacht race, which was eventually sunk in the English Channel, from memory. But it was the boat that was sunk on which most of the abuse took place. Savile was actually going out he went down to Jersey, and he was actually taking boys. There was another man involved as well, but Savile himself took boys from the children's home, where he was a guest, or welcome, onto the boat. So he was taking boys out onto Morning Cloud. Now, since Heath was well known, and since the boys were talking young men, it depends how you define child, but as a lawyer one would normally we define children as under the age of 14, which is the age of criminal responsibility. They were about that age, sadly, but they were old enough to know who was abusing them. it's quite clear that in most cases they weren't willing to be abused. And even if they were, at that age, we don't regard consent as informed consent. Defined in the United States of a phrase, statutory rape. The boys were murdered and thrown off the boat.
As
Barristers, psychiatrists,
yes,
police officers,
yeah.
Secret services.
Well, this man is now just appearing everywhere, but of course you have been saying for years that this man is not. This man has been an abuser.
Yeah, well, he has been an abuser, and I believe that Jimmy Savile has been complicit in the murder and the torture and the making of snuff movies of children. He's at Haute de la Garenne, for God's sake. Jimmy Savile was at Haute de la Garenne. He had associations with the Krays. Him and the Krays, this is Jimmy Savile as well, that was procuring children to then pass on to Ted Heath. Yeah. Edward Heath.
Some people are going to be utterly shocked that we've now got mention of a politician, but if you talk to people who know, like yourself and other people,
it's just common knowledge.
It's common knowledge to many people. Yeah. This is a change in legislation. I'll read it just for the people listening as opposed to viewing. But as of April 2009, because of a change in legislation being introduced by Jack Straw, the Justice Secretary, the media will no longer be able to identify those involved in cases such as the Websters. Now, the Webster case is a child court case, family court case. And then this absolutely blatant statement, so it continues, it will also be illegal for any children currently in care to speak out, even if they feel they're being mistreated. If we have a look at another politician, and the lady concerned is Harriet Harman. Here she is. She's, of course, looking very clean and smart and upper middle class. Do you think? She's not quite upper class, I don't think.
Well, I don't know, Brian. I just think bitch.
Well, here is the woman. And if we dig back into her history, we find that when she was originally connected with the National Council for Civil Liberties, which is the forerunner of Liberty, the organisation, she was lobbying for the rules on pornographic photos of children to be relaxed. And if I show this in a bit more detail, here she is looking a little bit chubbier and younger, of course. And I'll just read what was going out. In NCCL's official response to the government's plans to reform sex laws, dubbed the Lolita's Charter, it suggested reducing the age of consent and argued that childhood sexual experiences willingly engaged in with an adult result in no identifiable damage. It claimed that children can suffer more from having to retell their experiences in the court or the press. And then in an official NCCL response, which was signed by the then Miss Harman, that was a response to the Protection of Children Bill, it was claimed that the new law could lead to damaging and absurd prosecutions and increase censorship. She suggested that a pornographic photo or film of a child should not be considered indecent unless it could be shown that the subject had suffered, and that prosecutors would have to prove harm rather than defendants having to justify themselves. And at the time that this lady made this remarkable statement...
Evil statement, Brian, I think. I
totally agree with
believe
you.
that is evil.
Absolutely. And we've got, well, okay, the images come off there, but at that time, the National Council for Civil Liberties was directly linked into an organisation called PI, the Paedophile Information Exchange, and it was also linked into PAL, Paedophile Action for Liberty. So we just ask a question here. We've got one. They happen to be Labour MPs, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We've got one Labour MP who's quietly bringing in a law, so it's stopping children who are being abused speaking out. A classic example with that going on at the moment is Oxford and Cherwell Valley College, where none of the Oxfordshire Safeguarding Board have actually dealt with evidence of abuse within the college. So One man is denying children the opportunity of speaking out, and then here we've got a lady who is actually pushing to make it easier to take pornographic pictures of children.
Well, there you go. I mean, you know...
do they not think like ordinary people?
Downing Street is in hot water over allegations that it attempted to sweep under the rug the arrest of a close aide of the Prime Minister over a child pornography probe. The official, part of whose role was to advise online porn filters, was reportedly warned that police were investigating him hours before he was detained. RT's Laura Smith has the details.
His name is Patrick Rock, and he is in fact, though, a veteran Conservative Party advisor, David Cameron's Deputy Chief of Staff. He's been called Cameron's fixer, and he's had what one might call unparalleled access to power over a very long time, over the last 4 decades, right there in the heart of government. The irony lies in the fact that he's also been closely involved in drawing up government policy on internet pornography filters, and this is a man who was arrested recently on suspicion of what everybody's calling an offence related to child abuse images. So not just pornography, but what appears to be child pornography. Now, his arrest happened on February the 12th, and he then resigned, but this was all on the quiet. Downing Street appears to have covered it up until it was confronted with it now. So for the last 3 weeks, no one's known anything about this, but apart from the Prime Minister, who apparently has known for 3 weeks, he said he was very concerned that the matter should be handled correctly, that he didn't want to brief preemptively on a criminal investigation against a member of his staff. But his critics, who are mainly Labour members of Parliament, so opposition, say that this raises a number of questions. For example, what level of security did Patrick Rock have? Is there other stuff that we don't know about? It's also emerged, by the way, that Rock had previously been accused of sexual harassment, which was dealt with by his boss at Downing Street, so a political figure rather than a civil servant figure, not very usual. So again, some sort of oddity going on there. The Prime Minister is being accused of a cover-up, and his Labour critics say that this undermines the entire credibility and effectiveness of the government.
Are you aware of living paedophiles currently encircling Parliament?
Oh yes, there are several in Parliament at the moment.
Right.
And they're being blackmailed.
They are being blackmailed.
And it's a problem.
And by whom would they be blackmailed?
Well, it all goes back to Germany. The German intelligence are the classic users of paedophiles. The Germans understand paedophilia very well. Not saying all Germans are paedophiles, but
obviously.
The German intelligence have always understood paedophilia, and they've also had a good understanding of human nature and human weakness. It partly goes back to Freud, who was one of their intelligence advisors. He was one of their psychiatric advisors. The Germans have always had brothels, male brothels, in England. In the 1930s they had 3. There was one in Oxford, one in Cambridge, and one in London.
Right.
They also had female brothels as well. And
interesting dispersal there, really, isn't
well,
it?
yes, and it's not... London is the centre of power. Oxford and Cambridge are the centres of education, or were then. And, of course, what the Germans are doing is spotting future leaders.
Right.
Ebert Heath was recruited at Oxford. He was recruited at Balliol in 1937.
Right.
Ebert Heath first met Adolf Hitler in 1937.
I encountered Kenneth Clark MP, and when I did so, when I met him at Ian Greer's office, he molested me. He put his hand on my penis and kept it there. They hadn't spoken to Kenneth Clark MP, and they said they wouldn't be speaking to him because he was above the law. It was videotaped because it was the Cook report. We videotaped everything. So we had a jacket camera and we had a suitcase camera. And when I was in the room, the suitcase camera I think went on the sofa opposite, and I had the jacket camera on. Now you can't see anything with the jacket camera because obviously someone comes in and touches you that way, but on the suitcase camera you saw it. And when I got the tapes back to the, we were staying in a place called the Hyde Park Residence, they played the tapes, and the producers sat there and they watched it, and I watched it. So I know that they knew that I'd been molested by Kenneth Clark MP. John Major knew what we were doing, found out about it, and got Carlton Television, Carlton Communications, to buy Central Television to get hold of the Cook report tapes, to get hold of the tape of Kenneth Clark molesting me in Ian Greer's office as well. So these tapes were taken by Carlton Communications. John Major said, well, the scandal was so huge it was going to bring down the Conservative government, got Carlton Communications, who was a client of Ian Greer at the time, to do him a favour which was to buy Central Television, which we were planning to do anyway, but much later. Because they were going to buy sort of all the little small independent television stations.
So you get that film footage?
To get that film footage. Now, the man who did the actual getting of the tapes was Prime Minister David Cameron. He worked for Carlton Communications. He was Michael Green, the CEO's right-hand man, and he handled it. So when the police went to David Cameron to say about questioning Kenneth Clark, guess what he said? No.
Well, first of all, this is from a very credible source. It's a member of Parliament. It's somebody who has been providing us some very important information over the last 4 years, you know, about the work we're doing and the impact it's having. And he made it clear that his information was that they were considering it on the basis that the work we're doing is hitting very close to home, obviously. And it's no accident that it was announced that this sedition order was being considered the very week that we exposed, if you remember the announcement that came last Monday, when Joseph Ratzinger went to London, the first visit of a pope to England in history. On September 16th, 2010, he went to Holyrood Castle to meet with Queen Elizabeth, and they were closeted in there for, you know, about a day or two. It turns out that from the same source, we discovered that Queen Elizabeth actually agreed to place all Anglican clergy under the Catholic policy known as Crimen Solicitanus. That basically orders Anglican priests now, along with Catholic priests, to cover up child abuse. What she just did by that was violated her coronation oath, where she swore to protect the citizens of England. She has agreed now to cover up child rape. This is like an official criminal conspiracy. And naturally, us exposing that puts them in a really dangerous position. She should, under British law now, be forced to abdicate, she and all her heirs, because she's, completely committed treason, in effect. Now, their backs are obviously to the wall on this, and they are now obviously getting some advice that I should be permanently silenced, because in order to stop this, which could lead to a whole chain of events which could topple the whole British monarchy. So, I'm not surprised in a way they're acting that way, but they've been striking at people around me as well. If you remember, 3 of our members over the last little while have been put in British or Canadian prisons on trumped-up charges. One man was put in a mental hospital for 3 days until we got him out, the fellow in London, David Compan. So, they've been hitting around us, but definitely this is aimed at trying to, stop this exposure of the direct link between the Vatican and the Crown in protecting child rapists around the world.
Very fast-moving situation. This is the nub of it, is that Robert was arrested mid-morning on the 13th of February. That was by a combination of Cheshire police and police who travelled down from Aberdeen. And he was then taken north of the border. Now, initially, the reports, and we were getting reports from people very close to the case, including some family members. So the information they gave us appeared accurate. But it now has come to light that this is really what's going on, that Robert was taken north of the border, was subjected to a psychiatric examination. He was heavily questioned by the police about, amongst other things, Alex Salmon, and particularly the Violate S&M club, which I believe is based in Glasgow. But this questioning was not done as part of a formal police questioning session. And Robert has been visited now by somebody in prison, so we're pretty sure of the accuracy of the information we're getting now. And Robert still does not know the exact charge that has been used to arrest him in England and then imprison him in Perth. So he's on remand at the moment. We still believe that he'll be due back into court on Friday, but of course nobody has any idea of the charges. And at the moment, Robert still does not have access to his own legal representation, having a bad day today. But we know that steps are being taken to correct that as we speak. So if we just give a bit more detail to that, apparently he was arrested by 6 Scottish police headed by a DI, Alex Drummond, plus one officer from Cheshire Police. Now, presumably the Cheshire Police were there to keep an eye on their Scottish brothers, who, of course, were operating in England. And we know he had his home searched. We know that computers and things were once again taken away. But we understand that this time the police were quite courteous with him, and we don't think he was even handcuffed, although obviously he was then bundled into a police car to be driven north. So he got to Queen Street, Aberdeen Police Station at about 7:30 p.m. that evening. He was checked in, and then a Dr. Weirden arrived, apparently to assess his mental state, followed by two lady psychiatrists. Dr. Weirden asked him if he wasn't rather overcommitted. So it appears to us, particularly with the experience of knowing how English social services will work to get mothers who fight for the safety of their children, to get those mothers sectioned, it seems to us that this was a pretty crude attempt of the Scottish establishment to have a go, certainly at intimidating Robert, and probably to see whether they could find anything in order to section him. But on this occasion, the two psychiatrists pronounced him fit. But around midnight, he was then driven to Cornhill Mental Hospital, where he was interrogated for an hour by a lady psychologist. But again, this time, nothing found. So he was then basically put through the courts, the sheriff court. And he's apparently, Robert has told his visitor that basically he had to hang about all day waiting for the case to come up, and it was only dealt with after everybody else seemed to have cleared those courts. So I think we get an impression as to what was going on, and we believe the sheriff who presided over his case is a Mrs. MacDonald, and it would appear that she was either drafted in from Dundee, which is what we originally heard, or possibly Perth. And we think that this special sheriff was because we understand that there's some consternation amongst the Aberdeen sheriffs who, it would appear, don't want to be involved with the case. So we'll leave that to your imagination. And I'll just end on a good note, is that when Robert was taken into Perth prison, he said he was greeted in a very positive way by both inmates and prison officers, who were clearly aware that he was coming, and he's received huge support, I will just say, from members of the establishment who absolutely know that basically Robert has been campaigning to take the lid off the paedophile networks operating through the establishment in Scotland.
So he hasn't been officially charged as of yet, and he hasn't been, he's not inside for, because there has been a blog go out today that he's in prison for a year.
No, that's not true. He's on remand. We understand the longest that he could be held for is 150 days, which is still a very long time. But basically he's on remand, and he's due to be brought back into, we think, Aberdeen Sheriff Court on Friday, although, as we're saying at the moment, there's no information on the charge. And I would very much like to thank Belinda for that very comprehensive report. There is a new website that's gone live, which is free Robert Greene. I think that's .co.uk, but if you search for Free Robert Greene in Google, you will find it. So what's been going on here? What's this man been doing? What's his real crime? He's consistently campaigned for Scottish police to fully investigate those named as abusers by Holly Gregg, and indeed Holly was also able to name other children who had been abused. We simply ask, could the reluctance of the Scottish establishment to investigate be due to the fact that Holly named both members of the judiciary and establishment, and indeed the police? So, an unpleasant topic, and it really brings us on to this one.
This one, indeed, yes. It's come out that the Labour MPs have come out and apologised for being involved with PI, the Paedophile Information Exchange, and Brian's been doing some work on this morning, putting some pieces together.
Well, we decided the easiest thing was to take out the key pieces of the information in the paper, and this is really what they're talking about. They're talking about Patricia Hewitt, ex-MP now. She was working with Harriet Harman, MP, and we've got Mr. Jack Dromey as well involved, and this is the key organisation that all three of these people were involved with, the National Council for Civil Liberties. We're going back into the late 70s at the moment. Mike?
Yeah, Jack Dromey is Harriet Harman's husband, isn't that correct?
Indeed he is, yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. So here's the roles that we're looking at within National Council for Civil Liberties. And this is where it starts to get very mucky, because NCCL was involved, as Louise just said, with PI, but also they were there with the left-wing magazine Rights. Now, this is information that's come out of the Daily Mail, very, very comprehensive article, so well done, the Daily Mail.
Well, you should be commending the column, because the column has been exposing this for a very long time.
Well, that's true, but I'm going to say praise where it's due, Lou. We know that we have got mainstream reporters who on this particular subject won't give up. But here's a quote from a gay paedophile involved with the Rights magazine, Mike Morton. Consensual sex between adults and children is simply people of different age groups being nice to each other. Oh. So it's pretty interesting stuff. So direct links between the National Council of Civil Liberty and the Paedophile Information Exchange, and what sort of thing was going on? Well, of course, legalisation of child sex, and they wanted the age of consent reduced to 4 years old. So this is a very, very interesting picture building up now. Police investigations going on, which we'll mention, around senior members, particularly of the Labour administration, but Harriet Harman, of course, deputy leader of the existing Labour Party. Exactly. So for viewers who are overseas, you're now starting to get a real snapshot into the quality of the people that we've got running Britain. And of course, we've seen over many recent months the establishment running scared of a full and proper police investigation into the high-level paedophile rings, particularly those around Elm House. So, can you tell us about this man?
Yeah, I had a little look a while back now on who was behind PI, and here we have this gentleman here. His name is Peter Wrighton. He is dead now, and he was actually the founder of the PI. And he linked very closely. We've got some quotes actually come up here now with links to Cyril Smith.
Well, this is the main bit.
The main bit is the victim who had pointed out about Cyril Smith and Peter Wrighton being at various parties. The victim said Wrighton's evil network stretched to the top of the UK establishment, and that he brought him into contact with fellow pervert MP Cyril Smith. So this then took me to another gentleman.
Can I just, sorry to interject, just mention here that, of course, it's top policeman Bernard Hogan Howe from the Met Police, who said that he's not going to investigate the paedophile activity around Cyril Smith. That's an interesting question for a policeman to say he's not going to investigate when we've got activity around politicians, albeit dead.
So after looking at Peter Wrighton, I came across this chap. His name is Charles Napier. He was a former teacher. He was let off so many times, ended up in other countries, foreign countries, ended up getting sacked from a few schooling jobs, then finding ways to get round through his connections back into schools. He was then eventually picked up, and this guy was the treasurer of PI, and I'm still doing a little bit more investigation on whether this guy is still inside or not, but there are links to, I believe, Sidney Cook as well. But I'm actually going to be speaking to Bill Maloney in person on Friday night, and that show's going to be aired live here at 5 o'clock, so we will find out a lot more about this chap and Peter Wrighton.
Okay, well, let's come back to the main bit of the story here. So these are some statements made by Harriet Harman and Patricia Hewitt on the subject of the Paedophile Information Exchange. So this one's from Harman, an annual report dated 1976. She describes Pi in glowing terms as a campaigning counselling group for adults sexually attracted to children. And I'm going to say this is all information out of the Daily Mail article. Hewitt complains that Pi had recently been the subject of a hysterical and highly inaccurate article in the Sunday People newspaper, headlined "The Vilest Men in Britain," and that was designed to foster misunderstanding and hatred as to what these men were up to. So two highly protective statements of Pi by these two women. In 1978, the National Council for Civil Liberties submitted a briefing paper to Parliament on the upcoming Protection of Children Bill, which sought, amongst other things, to outlaw child pornography. Written by Harriet Harman, the briefing advanced an extraordinary argument that images of naked children should only be considered pornographic if it could be proven that the subject had suffered. So the onus was on a tiny child, and presumably their parents, to prove that paedophile activity had taken place. In 1976, NCCL lobbied for the age of consent to be lowered to 10 years and for incest to be legalised. Whoa. And in 1978, NCCL lobbied for child pornography laws to be relaxed. So we're not talking about a little bit of nibbling around the edges here. We're not talking about the age of consent being reduced to 15. We are talking about children as young as 4 being in the target of these people. And people supporting this are now in positions of power within Westminster and particularly within the Labour Party. But there was a bit more to the story, and it was that there at the moment is supposedly a thorough high-level government investigation. I think that's a bit of an oxymoron because I don't think we've ever seen a thorough government investigation. But they're looking at basically connections between Prime Minister James Callaghan, this man Merrill Rees, former Home Secretary. I believe he was also Northern Ireland Secretary at one point. But in his reign, public funds were actually being pushed through to the paedophile information exchange. I'm going to use the word alleged. It was alleged that public money was being pushed through to the paedophile information exchange. And this is the key bit. Police are now investigating the organisation as part of Operation Fernbridge, launched in the wake of the Jimmy Savile affair. Remember, Jimmy Savile tightly linked to the royal family, and in particular Charles. A senior source on the investigation says there is evidence that members of Pi were abusing children on an industrial scale. And that, of course, is exactly what campaigners have been saying for many years. Bill Maloney, Pie and Mash Films, of course, has been one of the lead campaigners, a victim himself, so he knows full well what goes on. Robert Greene doing tremendous work to try and expose the abuse of Down syndrome girl Holly Gregg. And of course, I think we're also allowed to say UK Column and many other free media organisations taking the lid off what's really happening. So we'll just leave you with a picture of Harriet. We're going to ask what's going on in Westminster. Are our children safe? Is the nation safe in their hands? And we just remind you here that this is what this lady thought. So that if you're taking images of naked children, you've got to prove that they've actually suffered. And this woman, deputy leader in the future, possibly leader of the Labour Party, possibly, if the British public allows it, a future Prime Minister.
Her position's got to be untenable now, doesn't it?
I would have thought so, unless the country is happy to move into a new phase of change and big society where the age of consent is 4 years old. It's pretty obvious, isn't it, what's going on?
The man you mentioned is a High Court Justice in England. His name's Adrian Fulford. He's 61 years old. He's one of the top judges of the High Court in England. He's a direct advisor to Queen Elizabeth. He advises her on constitutional matters. He's also a notorious protector of child rapists. He is part of a group called PI, Pedophile Information Exchange, which the police in England have named as one of the main agencies for linking child rapists. They say it's one of the Scotland Yard inspectors was quoted as saying it's an industrial level of child raping activity going on. In other words, it's a massive network. And this Judge Adrian Fulford, so-called Lord Adrian Fulford, is right in that very deeply. He's organized. He was one of the original organizers of this PI group. He's held, when he was younger, he organized protests to defend the right of child rapists. And he is get this, he has publicly advocated that the age of consent be lowered to 4. In other words, it would be legal for children as young as 4 to have sex. I mean, this is mind-boggling. It's a crime, and clearly, regardless of his position, he is guilty as a citizen for aiding and abetting child rape. And you know, the amazing thing about this man is Tony Blair attempted to have him knighted. He became a Queen's Counsel in 1994, and he's a serving judge in the International Criminal Court.
Prince Philip is not good. He's not a good character. He's virtually going to go down in history as the Black Prince. His family were kicked out of Greece, and he was brought out of Greece in an orange box when he was just a baby, just a few months old. And when he met Princess Elizabeth, she was 14 and he was 18, and it was as he had just joined the Navy. He had 2 suits and 20 quid in his pocket, but and the introduction was done by Lord Louis Mountbatten, who was then about 39, and Winston Churchill at the time was the father was about 64. Prince Philip got involved in heroin trafficking, and he got involved in pedophilia. Which first? Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip were due to go on a world tour, and they're due to go to New Zealand in 1952. But King George VI died, so she got crowned and the world tour was delayed a year. They went to New Zealand, and they went to Lake Rotoiti and stayed in Moose Lodge from the 1st to the 4th of February 1954. Now the pedophilia and the heroin go hand in hand, and that those who supplied children to Prince Philip were then invited into the heroin trafficking ring. And the heroin trafficking was done through the Navy, and it was done using sonar buoys, which were called seahorses. So the pedophilia story that I've heard from intelligence in 1954, 1st to the 4th of February at Moose Lodge in Lake Rotoiti, was that Prince Philip used to wear a rabbit suit, and the children were given scopolamine, which is an inhibition inhibitor and a memory loss agent. And the children were selected from parents who were compromised or could be compromised. And after that, when they left New Zealand, you can see them at Auckland getting onto the Sunderland Plain, and Queen Elizabeth was walking 10 paces in front of Prince Philip. And it was generally considered at that time, 2 years after they'd been married, that the marriage was over. Those who supplied Prince Philip with children were then invited into his heroin trafficking ring, and that was called the triumvirate. Triumvirate is Latin for 3 people who are running a loosely organised organisation with no particular rules. It's an affiliation, but in this case it was essentially a mafia. So Prince Philip was involved in heroin trafficking using the Navy.
Prince Charles, who appears to be a victim of pedophilia and pedophile, and has
close friends who are pedophiles, and it appears that his father's a pedophile, Prince Philip. Max Clifford, who was a PR agent for the Queen, but he's actually a British military intelligence agent, and he's just been arrested for pedophilia under Operation U-Tree on the 6th of December 2012, the day before Jacinta Saldana was suicided. Prince Philip and Lord Louis Mountbatten also had sexual relations. Prince Philip was also known for getting drunk on Royal Navy ships and then falling over on his stomach so that he could be sodomized. And some of the sailors who sodomized him told co-researchers of mine that, oh yeah, I've had Prince Philip. So he was quite into sodomy and into children. And now on Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, they're finding lots of bodies of children and women buried around in the yards. So it looks like Prince Philip, who extorted his marriage with Princess Elizabeth, is a pedophile, who then agreed to marry Princess Elizabeth, and that their firstborn would be sodomized as a child by Lord Louis Mountbatten.
This is also unbelievably disgusting.
Well, it's like,
what was the location where the bodies of children and women have been found again?
Sandringham House, which is actually Sandringham Palace. And it's actually on the Dragon Line that runs from Transylvania, where Prince Charles has bought a lot of properties. It's where the Dracula castle is.
So are you implying then that the yard has been dug up, that these bodies have been unearthed, and if so, who was responsible for that?
Yeah, but the problem is that Queen Elizabeth owns the court buildings. So there's no hearings in court against the Queen.
Yeah, but have these bodies then been excavated, as you imply, and if so, by whom?
They have been exhumed, and they were buried randomly, not as graves, and they were buried to be hidden. And investigations are ongoing.
I mean, yes, if they're buried randomly, it'd be very difficult to locate them. I think it's remarkable they've discovered, you imply, quite a few.
There are quite a few bodies there.
A murder on the Queen's country estate in rural East England. The dead body of a young woman found in a field next to where Prince Philip regularly goes shooting. A mystery the police seem no closer to solving.
Behind me are the gates which lead to Sandringham House, one of the Queen's private residences. The Queen and her husband Prince Philip traditionally stay here over the Christmas period up until the end of January, and they were here when the body was discovered on New Year's Day.
David Blackmore, who works on the local newspaper, was the first reporter on the scene after news of the grisly discovery broke.
As you can see around us, there aren't many houses around here apart from sort of the people that work on the estate, but the reaction from West Norfolk in general has been one of shock, really. I mean, you don't get murders every day of the week, and I think the fact that the investigation seems to sort of be grinding to a halt because they can't find identification, it makes it even harder for people to really digest this information.
The fabulously wealthy British royals use Sandringham as one of their many country retreats. The house is set in 24 hectares of stunning gardens amid the sprawling Sandringham estate, which is comprised of woodland and heath. The Queen can regularly be seen in the local village, often when she goes to church, and Prince Philip has reportedly been seen next to the field where the body was found with a gun. But part of the estate is open to the public, and this is where the woman's body was found. That's why the royal family aren't suspects so far.
You often see the royal family, royal parties out, shooting on the estate. There was a shoot, I believe, at the end of December as well, not too far from this area, and that's what police have said today. So that is something a bit new and perhaps a bit of a new line, really.
Police say the body may have been lying on the estate for up to 4 months, and they're currently sifting through a list of missing persons to determine the woman's identity. The royal family have been briefed, but not questioned, about the investigation. Roshan Mohammed Salih, Press TV, Sandringham in East England.
And in Britain this morning, police are hoping to solve a murder mystery with a royal twist. A woman's body was found Sunday on the grounds of one of Queen Elizabeth's estates. The discovery turned the Sandringham estate northeast of London into a crime scene. The royal family spent holidays there, including a New Year's celebration. Police are trying to identify the murder victim.
Obviously, we will be continuing our inquiries over sort of the next days and weeks to establish A, who she is, and B, how she came to be here and who is responsible for her being here.
An autopsy was conducted yesterday, but the cause of death was not disclosed. No royals are involved in the investigation.
British authorities plan to conduct an autopsy later on Tuesday. Incredibly, a body found on the Queen's estate in Sandringham. The cause of death not yet known. Royal correspondent Max Foster joining me now from London with more on that. How bizarre, Max.
Absolutely, a real murder mystery, isn't it? Apparently, a dog walker discovered some human remains on the estate on New Year's Day, and that's where this investigation started. Just to give you a sense of this estate, it is the Queen's country estate where she stays at Christmas. She's staying there currently, but it's 20,000 acres. It's absolutely vast. There are villages within this estate, so it is open to the public in many places. Only around the house is it very private and secure, and this happened about a mile away from the main gates to the house, so it is in the Queen's backyard, you could say. This is what the police told us about it earlier this morning.
I think the circumstances indicate that she is probably the victim of murder. The body has been in situ for some time, but again, the experts are here to establish exactly what that time frame is.
So, as suggested there, Michael, a female body. We don't know much more. We will find out more this afternoon following the autopsy at the local hospital, named, in fact, after the Queen, Queen Elizabeth Hospital at King's Lynn.
And no suggestion of any link to the royal household. It just seems to be a coincidence at the moment, or they just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a vast area, and it is open to the public, so they are actually going through all the unsolved crimes, not just locally, but nationally, to try to find cases which may relate to this, but they need the results of the autopsy. No comment from Buckingham Palace so far, Michael. They're saying it's a police case, although they do say that the Queen is there, and you'd assume that she would have at least been informed about this. You'd expect to be told if a body had been discovered in your garden.
We'll talk about that. But now to more on that murder mystery unfolding at a rapid pace right now. The royal estate, a crime scene at this hour after a body was found close to the Queen's quarters. ABC's Lama Hassan joins us with the latest right now. Good morning, Lama.
Absolutely, Robin. Good morning to you. Well, the police are now treating it as murder, examining cold cases nationwide for potential links. ABC News has learned those human remains found so close to the Queen's residence on her Sandringham estate were that of a woman's body.
Just hours after the Queen and Prince Philip went to church this Sunday, a dog walker discovered the grim human remains in a woodland area on the estate.
It's pretty bizarre. I mean, Sandringham is huge, it's sprawling, most of it is open to the public. And what baffles me is that why was it only stumbled upon on New Year's Day?
Found here just a stone's throw from the royal stud where the Queen oversees the breeding and training of racehorses, and less than 2 miles from the Queen's main residence. So when the royal family were wowing the crowd and celebrating Christmas at Sandringham, having a traditional turkey dinner, what they didn't know was within days the grisly remains of a human would be discovered. Eerie.
What do you see?
It's a mystery even the one and only great detective Sherlock Holmes himself might struggle to solve. Who did it? What are the clues? And it's not the first time this has happened. In March last year, the body of American Robert James Moore, described as a loner and obsessed with the Queen, was found 100 yards from Buckingham Palace. So will members of the royal family be questioned in this case?
I doubt the royal family will be questioned. I doubt anybody will be questioned, really, except the person who found the remains.
More than 200 people also live here, including farmers, gamekeepers and gardeners, and it's a popular tourist attraction. Someone must have seen something.
Well, the area is now a crime scene, as you said, Robin. It's swarming with forensic experts searching for clues, and the police have just released a statement saying that they are in the early stages of this investigation, which could turn into a complex case. The woman's body has now been taken for a post-mortem.
All right, Lama, thank you very much. We're going to bring an ABC News contributor and the royal editor of The Sun, Duncan Larkham, a good friend of ours. And Duncan, I know this is just unraveling right now, but the police saying this is going to be a murder investigation. What more can you tell us?
Well, it is. It's a bizarre start to the year for the Queen. This is happening very, very rapidly. We heard about it first last night. It's been shrouded in secrecy. The body was found on New Year's Day, which incidentally was the day that the Queen and Prince Philip went to church and were in front of the TV cameras. So we're only starting to find out the details now, but it appears that, as you say, there was a really rather a gruesome secret being hidden just there on the Queen's back garden when all the royals were there celebrating the festive season.
And as we talked about in Lama's piece, how do investigators go about? This happened on royal property, and we heard in Lama's piece that some people believe that the royals will not be questioned, but, you know, they were there. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, Norfolk police have really got to make up the rules as they go along now. I mean, I don't think there's been an example of a murder case coming right into the grounds of a royal palace. Sandringham is very close to the Queen's heart. It's where they always spend the New Year. And it's possible that somebody involved with the Queen's staff may know something, may have seen something. Certainly at this time of year, with all those royals in residence, there are dozens and dozens of security guys, policemen, undercover officers swarming through the grounds. It seems quite extraordinary that it wasn't until a dog walker discovered this body that nothing was found.
Well, you hit upon something right there, Duncan. All the security around the Queen of England, and a body is found. That has to be unsettling to the royals.
Yes, I mean, my understanding is that the Queen is being kept informed of these developments as and when, you know, there's news to tell her. I think she will be naturally very concerned about, you know, it's a little bit close to home, let's face it. And the area where the body was found is next to a small village on the estate, which is one of Prince Philip's favourite hunting grounds, where he likes to go out at this time of year and indulge in his favourite pastime.
And we do need to point out that it is a sprawling large estate, and that there are tenant farmers, there is public access, and so all those things need to be kept in mind. It's not just the royals that are there, right?
No, that's right. The Sandringham estate's about 20,000 acres, and there are lots of sitting tenants, cottages, villages even, that are owned by the sort of royal estate. So there's a lot of public toing and froing, especially at this time of year when tourists come to try and catch a glimpse of the royal family.
So where do we go from here, Duncan? What do you think is going to happen next?
Well, as you said in your report, there will be a post-mortem later today. What we still don't yet know is how long the body has been there. I personally find it inconceivable that the body would have been dumped there whilst the royals were in residence, and it would be one of the most crazy places to hide a body if you murdered somebody. I think you'd try and take it somewhere slightly more discreet. So really, we're waiting to find out how long it's been there.
Excellent point there, Duncan. Thank you, as always, for your reporting for us. We really do appreciate it. You take care. It is now 7:36.
But credit should go to Exaro, because they've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And there's another story waiting to unfold here to do with a videotape of paedophiles that has come out of Amsterdam. And basically this tape is explosive because in it is a Tory cabinet minister. Many names at the moment are drifting around the internet, but of course we certainly can't repeat any of those. But it is known to us that this level of evidence is now available to police, Fernbridge and Yewtree, but we are still waiting for the police to take full and proper action on the known paedophiles within Westminster.
George W. Bush and Victor Ashe, the former mayor of Knoxville, who has quickly been broomed over to Poland as the ambassador gotten out of the country, is supposedly on record, according to Tom's research, as having visited George Bush virtually on a monthly basis. This homosexual pedophile milieu seems to encompass extraordinary depths and breadths of American government and probably world government.
Now, I have some sources, some confidential sources, who furnish me information from time to time. And there's code words for some of these various operations. The code word that I'm going to tell you about right now, and this is in my source's own handwriting. He doesn't write too well, so I may make some mistakes. The Black Rose is the code word for this. It's a clandestine group of U.S. government operatives, primarily the CIA, which has for many years run illegal drugs and arms operations in both Southeast Asia via the Golden Triangle and the Middle East via the Golden Crescent, funded by the British socialist-based Russell Trust drug cartel. The Black Rose's current chairman and co-founder is an individual known as the White Rose, or GHWB, a known bisexual pedophile and CFR, Council on Foreign Relations conspirator. This man, as a top member of the Skull and Bones Society, developed the heroin ring, which, while servicing as ambassador, along with his CIA activities. The Black Rose also runs cocaine through Panama from Colombia to the offshore oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. That's directly from a government agent.
It was 1978, and it was determined that I had endured sufficient trauma to carry out my first trial run operation. An enormous quantity of cocaine had been flown in on one of these operations, and I was to deliver it into the neighboring state of Arkansas. By that time, Bill Clinton's drug operation was in full swing. He was governor of Arkansas, and I delivered this cocaine to a remote airport in Ouachita Forest, which I've since identified as Mena Airport. I also delivered a little packet of information and a small quantity of cocaine, a personal stash from J. Bennett Johnston, to Bill Clinton. I delivered it to Bill Clinton, and he cut out 2 lines of the coke, and he did inhale. That certainly wasn't the only time I saw Bill Clinton using cocaine. My sexual experience with Bill Clinton was extremely limited, in spite of the fact that I was a sex slave. It was my experience that Bill Clinton is bisexual, leaning far more towards a homosexual end. All I've ever seen him involved in was the homosexual activity, with very limited experience with him myself. Whereas my experience was much more prevalent with Hillary Clinton, because Hillary is also bisexual, leaning more towards a homosexual end, and it was she who accessed my sex programming to fulfill her perversions.
Under the watch of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, diplomatic security agents in Lebanon sexually attacked guards, State Department contractors in Baghdad bought drugs from an underground drug ring, and Clinton's own security agents while abroad routinely solicited prostitutes, taking the call girls back to the same hotel their boss, Hillary Clinton, was staying in. One wonders whether Clinton and her so-called advisor, Huma Abedin, who never leaves her side, joined in the little parties. But this is only the beginning of the sexual escapades in Hillary Clinton's State Department. Ambassador to Belgium, Howard Gutman, routinely ditched his security detail in Brussels and solicited prostitutes, including minors. The initial suppressed Inspector General report charged Gutman with pedophilia, sex with children. When agents discovered that Howard Gutman was having sex with children, it was allowed to continue for months. Why? In a name, Barack Hussein Obama. Gutman was a high roller and contributed $500,000 to Barack Obama's re-election campaign. Was Gutman thrown in jail, ID'd as a sexual predator? Were criminal charges lodged against the State Department contractors in Iraq for drug use? Were any criminal charges brought against anyone? No. It was all swept under the rug. It proved to be too damaging to the State Department. It proved to be too damaging to Hillary Clinton, slated by the Democrat Party to run for president in 2016. Hillary Clinton is no stranger to covering up sexual escapades. Her husband's indiscretions in the Oval Office involving a blue dress and cigars with Monica Lewinsky were pushed down the rabbit hole by Hillary Clinton's damage control team, sidetracking the country into thinking a, quote, vast right-wing conspiracy, unquote, was to blame for the behavior of her psychopathic sexual predator husband, Bill Clinton.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
But for Hillary Clinton to cover up sexual attacks, prostitution, drugs, for her to cover up sex with children, she has sunk to a new low. But this is only the beginning. Aurelia Fedenissen, the former State Department Inspector General staffer turned whistleblower who brought Hillary Clinton's cover-up to the public's attention, was given the classic shakedown.
Aurelia Fedenissen is claiming that she is being harassed by her former employer, folks at State. She says federal law enforcement agents have come to her house, harassed her children, and are trying to bully her into silence.
But this story is only getting started. Remember Watergate? It all started when a group of Nixon's thugs broke into the Watergate office complex in order to bug the Democrat headquarters, in order to photograph confidential documents. Guess what happened to the law firm Schulman and Matthias, the attorneys representing Aurelia Fedenissen? Their office was broken into multiple times in a single day.
There was a computer here. The computer is gone. That's one of 3 computers that were taken from the premises.
The video shows the pair of prowlers calmly leaving the building, seemingly with no worries about being spotted.
Somebody jokingly said it's Schulman-Matthias gate because maybe the door was rigged to stay open so they can get in after hours.
Schulman represents 2 people who filed whistleblower complaints against the State Department, charging
higher level senior officials in the Department of State have interfered with criminal investigations at a lower level.
Another reason the elite drink children's blood is for its known rejuvenating effects. Why do you think some of these old Illuminati Satanists live so long?
It turns out that drinking children's blood is an anti-aging device. This is just really sick and disgusting, but it's a fact. It's a chemical fact. And if you drink adrenalized children's blood, which is to say you terrorize the child, not just with sodomy, but with torture and with other satanic ritual things. If you adrenalize the child's blood before you kill them and drink their blood, this is a doubly effective anti-aging device. You can also harvest children's bone marrow. So children are being killed for their bone marrow as an anti-aging device for the elite. I don't make this stuff up. It's gone on throughout history. This is not new.
A piece of skin that came from a young person far, far away, and they somehow figured out how to extract.
It's foreskin from a Korean baby. It's like
What you want in a pancake is to have the consistency of young human flesh. It's spongy, it has life to it. You're with a guy with brightly colored undergarments, and you got soft human flesh in front of you.
I eat children. How old are you?
12.
12.
So, oh, okay, only to 10.
Only okay, that's good.
That's
good.
Children and pineapple. Children and pineapple.
Actions by Hillary Clinton do you think are the most satanic?
Which what?
Which actions by Hillary Clinton you think are the most satanic?
The willingness to kill babies, innocent babies.
What is this? That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer, man. Adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome?
I stomped them. Where'd you get this? What kind of monster client have you hooked up with this time? Satanism freak. I think there's only one source for this stuff. The adrenaline gland from a living human body. I know. The guy didn't have any cash to pay me. They nailed this guy for child molesting. He swore he didn't do it. Why should I put children, he said. They're too small.
Like the Countess who feeds on the blood of children.
You must have a lot of questions. I have answers. I'm kidnapping children that I keep in the hotel upstairs, and I bring home people to feed on, and then Iris helps me to filter the blood through the children. She loves to hunt. She loves her condition. There's a lot of grappling with addiction with the show.
Mr. Biden, are you still groping Senator's children? Creepy Joe Biden? Creepy Joe Biden on YouTube? Sir, have you seen the video? It's pretty disgusting, sir.
Grandpa's one of the big guys.
That's nice of you to say.
No, I'm not saying it. He knows I mean it. I genuinely mean it.
That's good to hear.
Do you know what my dad used to say? His granddaughters have one important job. Take care of the pop. That's the most important one.
Okay, the gentleman with the baby, could you guys come over? Okay, yeah, can I get a couple of you, just few of you, just come over here.
Come on, man, you make me look better, okay?
Oh.
There we go.
All right.
Thank you. This is a long day. Walking in this That's right, everybody. Don't tell me what you have. Here we go. Joe, you come right on this side of Mommy. No, you come over here. That's it. Keep going. You're standing right next to me. There you go. And then we're going to have...
There you go.
You should come here.
There we go.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Okay, and then you want the back, you can spread out a little bit like that. The Bible. Everybody else is looking forward to sitting with
the kids can stay right in the front if you want. Where do they take the picture? Molly, come over by me. Come on over. Good to see you, Molly. How old are you, honey?
12.
Oh, beautiful smile. Okay.
Very nice. Caroline.
Hi, Caroline. How old are you? How old are you? 18. 18.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Great.
Great.
Okay, got some more family people. Come on in. You got Okay. Someone go behind there.
I like kids better than people.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
Okay, right here. There's the official. Can I go with just alone? Very good.
Dad's going to stand pretty close.
What difference at this point does it make?
I believe it's a miracle that she is not sitting in the Oval Office today, because she is a trusted ally and, to those in the highest echelons of power, a willing puppet who would have protected the slave rings and slave traders I've outlined in this video. Q has stated repeatedly, there will come a time none of them will be able to walk down the street. Biggest fear? Public awakening. Anon researchers are now digging deep into the flight logs of Jeffrey Epstein and the layout of his occult-riddled private island, Little St. James. His close friend, Bill Clinton, flew there more than 20 times. Pure evil, Q says. Hillary flew there on several occasions as well. There will come a time none of them will be able to walk down the street. But we've already seen the worst of these people, right?
We came, we saw, he died.
It couldn't get worse than illegal wars based on lies leading to the deaths of millions, could it? Recall the statement from NYPD insiders who watched video found on Anthony Weiner's laptop, said to feature Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin engaged in something horrible with a child. Even the most cynical Hillary haters among us assumed it was likely a video of Clinton and Abedin engaged in sex with a child. And this is another warning. Turn this video off now if you don't think you're suited to hearing just how pure evil these people can and may be. There is a new term researchers and QAnons are using to describe the activities of these people. Pedovore. Remember, these people are sick, but not criminally sick. They know what they are doing is wrong. 100% death penalty. When you think pedivore, think carnivore of children. According to several researchers on Twitter, the video on Anthony Weiner's laptop has been seen and may already be in part released on the dark web. According to John Miranda, the first details of the horrific HRC video are coming to light. What exactly could bring hardened NYPD detectives to vomit and cry? Just reading some details is cause for nightmares, truly horrific nightmares. No one wants to see this video. The military tribunal judges that are called upon will view it, together with a handful of attorneys. A couple of specialists from the NSA will give a public statement stating that the video was authentic. Some still shots will probably be publicly released, but no one wants to see this video. This satanic monster is still hailed as a fallen heroine by the overwhelming majority of our mainstream media. You now need to ask yourself just how many of them are also involved in the satanic pedophile syndicate. The evil ones among us protect each other. They have done so for centuries. They all need to be fully exposed as well. Where we go one, we go all. It is their end, not ours. And according to this researcher, well, the hostile Lecter Hannibal level of the evil described as being seen in that video prevents me from even reading it. But I'll leave this screenshot up for you to read at your own discretion. It's beyond horrible. It's pure evil. There will come a time none of them will be able to walk down the street.
There was a tramp who was brought in once, and he was killed. He was cut from his throat down to his stomach, and they ate him, or bits of him.
They killed a man at a ceremony?
Yeah.
In front of you?
Yeah, in front of all of us.
Did the tramp, did this man fight back?
No, I think he was, drunk or something. He seemed really dopey. He was laughing a lot when he was brought in. And he started screaming when they began to cut. But after a while, he died. I'd seen a few killings before then. Although I wasn't used to it, that was the worst one. I really don't know what I thought. I suppose I thought, thank God it's not me.
Let me get this right now. Are you saying that you saw more than one person killed in that house?
Yeah. I've seen loads of babies killed there. Just newborn babies. Or aborted ones, which were only small. 4-year-olds. any age really.
Did they ever say they might kill you?
They threatened to kill my little girl who, when I left, was still at the house.
A friend?
Huh?
What little girl?
My little girl, Alex. She's about 4 now.
You mean you had a child?
Yeah.
How old were you when you had that child?
11.
In what may become one of the biggest child molesting cases ever on record, 7 nursery school teachers were arraigned today on more than 100 counts of child molestation.
The accused include the preschool owner, 76-year-old Virginia McMartin, her daughter, and 2 grandchildren.
Martin Preschool in Manhattan Beach, as it looked when we photographed it discreetly just 3 weeks ago. It started out here in Manhattan Beach looking like an isolated incident. One mother noticed that her young son was having nightmares and difficulty sitting down. Authorities now believe that at least 60 young children were victimized, and that the ultimate number could well be much greater.
Those children, some of them as young as 2 years old, were photographed by the suspects.
Kiddie porn was the primary purpose for the alleged sexual abuse of children.
Some children allege that a living creature was sacrificed on the church's altar.
The truth about Satanism is they truly do use blood, and they mix it with urine, and then they also use the real meat, the real flesh. This is what makes Satanism true, and this is what 1,200 molested kids in the city of Manhattan Beach have told the Sheriff's Department.
I believe we may be dealing with a nationwide conspiracy of child predators who are operating daycare centers as a cover for child abuse.
Satanism, devil worship, is being practiced all across the country. We have all types of perversion. Is cannibalism part of the ritual?
The children have spoken about this in almost every instance.
We're made to chew pieces of these children's hearts, pieces of their flesh.
When parents begin to realize these things are really happening, it's not just something out of the dark ages, it'll be much more difficult for these people to pull these things off.
When we hear of ritual sacrifices, our reaction is one of horrific avoidance. We say things like, this only happened in the Middle Ages. It doesn't mean that children are not telling the truth.
This is a call for an uprising, and this is the most important story that nobody knows. We've heard about the Franklin cover-up. We've heard about Pizzagate and Comet Ping Pong, Hampstead, and other events involving satanic ritual abuse. But no event in modern history ever came closer to exposing the satanic underground that runs and controls our world. In 1983, a mother of one of the Manhattan Beach, California preschools known as the McMartin Preschool reported to police that her son had been sodomized by a teacher at the McMartin Preschool, Ray Buckey. Ray Buckey was the grandson of the school founder Virginia McMartin and son of Administrator Peggy McMartin Buckey. It was reported that the child had bleeding coming out of his rectum, and he was telling police officers about the sexual abuse that he had endured. This prompted the police department in Los Angeles to send out letters to the parents in the area to talk to their children about potentially being victims of sexual abuse at their preschool. As a result, over 1,200 children came forward and reported that they had been victims of not only sexual abuse, but being forced to perform sexual acts on adults as well. This led to the most expensive trial in the history of the United States legal system, which cost over $15 million and lasted 7 years. This is what prompted the media to come up with the term satanic panic and to use terms such as a witch hunt. As the story started gaining more media coverage, more and more children around the United States of America were coming forward to their parents, reporting that they had been victims of satanic ritual abuse. Not just sexual abuse, satanic ritual abuse involving the mutilation and sacrifice of animals, being forced to drink animal blood as well as human blood, watching babies be decapitated in front of them, performing sexual acts of fellatio on grown men. And as this continued to happen, the media picked up on the story and started calling it crazy, that it couldn't be true, that around the entire country, all of these children suddenly are coming forward talking about these weird ceremonies involving adults dressed up in cloaks, chanting and singing and performing all types of sexual orgies, human sacrifice, blood rituals on these children and with these children. The world wouldn't believe that this was true, so they dubbed it the Satanic Panic. But little did they know, and little did the prosecutors know, of just how close they were to revealing the greatest single atrocity in human history, which are these satanic pedophile rings, which nobody knows about and nobody talks about. And just like in the case of O.J. Simpson, when all the evidence pointed towards O.J. being guilty, Johnny Cochran and the Dream Team turned the story into a story about race and not about murder. In this event, there was the same thing that was done. Instead of this being about the children who were abused, it turned into the way that the DA hired the woman who interviewed the children, claiming that they were pressuring the children into telling these stories because some of the children had come forward and said no, that these things didn't happen. And upon being asked the question multiple times, they changed their story.
A child abuse prevention center. At the request of prosecutors, CII social worker Key McFarlane and her team had been videotaping interviews with the preschoolers.
Using puppets to encourage the children to reveal what happened, the therapists were able to unlock the horrible secrets of the McMartin school.
So the defense used this as an argument, saying that they were leading the witnesses, that they were manipulating these children who were easily manipulated by the Children's Institute International, the CII of Los Angeles, which was a Los Angeles abuse therapy clinic run by Key McFarlane. They claim the interviewing techniques used during investigations of the allegations were highly suggestive and invited children to pretend or speculate about supposed events. This became the defense tactic, just like we saw in the O.J. Simpson trial. What happened from there is the media started talking about the McMartin case nationally. Oprah, Geraldo Rivera were talking about satanic ritual abuse. It was beginning to open up a can of worms. But what they were doing was sensationalizing these stories. They were sensationalizing it, telling people that this sounded like make-believe, because there were things reported by children, such as doing rituals in front of goat men, men who were dressed up as goats. One of the children on the witness stand was asked to identify some of the people he was involved in these satanic sexual acts with. And upon looking at photographs, he pointed out Chuck Norris, Hollywood actor, as well as another politician.
You were forced to dig up the bodies of dead people.
Yes.
And did the teachers give the kids shovels to dig up the bodies?
Yes.
Permission to approach, Your Honor. Now, these are pictures of some men with numbers under them, right?
Yes.
Look at these very carefully, Aaron, and if you see any of the men who went with you to the cemetery, draw a circle around the pictures with the red pencil. Okay. Your Honor, I would like to indicate for the record that Aaron has identified City Attorney James Hahn and actor Chuck Norris.
This caused laughs in the crowd. This caused the media to laugh and say that these kids didn't know what they were talking about, that Chuck Norris, that politicians would be involved in something like this, that these kids didn't know what they were talking about. Suddenly the story turned into that these parents were trying to make a buck and wanted attention and created this satanic panic geared towards sensationalizing and victimizing themselves for attention and for money and publicity. And as we all know now, these Hollywood celebrities who've continued to get exposed over the last 25 years, and these politicians from the Franklin cover-up all the way down to Pizzagate, we see the involvement of very high and powerful people in the United States of America and around the world. We see how much money goes into human trafficking of children and how much is made. It's one of the biggest industries in the world, if not the biggest, along with child pornography. The children at McMartin reported being taken to other locations and being photographed, performing games where they were forced to take their clothes off and allow the adults to take pictures of them. The children testified that they were taken underground in tunnels. No investigation was done looking into the underground tunnels because they had been filled in. And conveniently for the defense team, the school was burnt twice during the trial and attempts to burn it to the ground. But instead of looking underground and trying to dig up these tunnels, the kids claim that they're being transferred through to an airport, claiming that they had been flown up into the mountains, claiming that they had seen Ray Bucky actually levitate in front of them. All of these stories became sensationalized by the media, thinking that these children all around the country all had this crazy imagination about Satan and druids and watching animals be killed.
That they were taken by the teachers to car washes, to mortuaries, to cemeteries, flown in an airplane to Palm Springs. Where did Peggy Ann touch you on your body?
On my dick.
Did you have to touch Peggy Ann?
Yes.
Where?
On her boobs.
Did you have to touch any other part of her body besides her boobs?
Her puss.
Did you see Ray do anything to Peggy Ann?
He would put his dick in her puss.
Did you see Ray do anything to the animals at school?
He would cut the ears off the rabbits.
Did Ray say anything while he was doing that to the rabbits?
He said it would happen to our parents if we told any of our secrets.
Did the teachers take you any other place outside of school?
To Harry's Market.
And what happened then?
They took us in the storage room and touched us on our dicks and took pictures.
Did you go anyplace else besides the market?
To a church. St. Cross Church.
What happened at the church?
They took us down the aisle, and on the altar they put animals like birds and rabbits and chopped them to pieces.
Who is they, Jonathan?
I saw people wearing black costumes and with ropes around their waist. And it would look really scary, and sometimes they have devil suits on.
Devil suits?
Yeah. And we were forced to drink rabbit blood.
And what else are you going to stop? And stop killing babies. And stop killing babies, and we have to we're going to face our fear and face our urge.
You're going to face your fear. Because fear is what?
Fear is the mind killer.
And you're going to help us to catch who? You're going to help us to catch?
All the pedophiles. Papa, Mr. Hollins, Mr. School.
All the policemen. All the social services.
Speak up, speak up.
All the shopkeepers, all the cafes, all the pizza and McDonald's.
Who did you mention just now? Who? Caf what?
Kafkas.
Who's Kafkas?
You know, there's the people who work at Kafkas.
What is Kafkas?
Kafkas is they're for children. They work with the social services.
And what did they do to you?
They do sex. They touch each other. They touch me and Gabriel. They have plastic willies. And they stick it in our bottom.
Who does? Who sticks it in your bottom?
Social services. Everybody does. All of them.
Who?
Everybody.
Does your mother do it?
No.
Do I do it?
No.
Who does it then?
Papa, Mr. Hollins, the school.
Who?
Parents.
My dad's
Tell me more people. Tell me some more people, please. I'm interested.
Parents, police.
What about the teachers at school? Who's the main one?
Papa, Mr. Hollins, Mrs. Forsyth.
Who's Mrs. Forsyth?
She's the head teacher of our school.
And what does she do?
And she does sex. She got a big nut with a big tattoo on her private.
And what happens in the church?
And we do baby sacrifice and eat the baby.
What do you mean sacrifice and eat the baby?
So we kill the baby and eat it and drink the blood from it.
Is that true, Gabriel?
Yes. And we dance with the skulls.
You what?
We dance with the skulls in the church.
What skulls?
Skulls of the baby.
Pardon?
Baby skulls. The skulls of the baby.
You dance with the baby skulls?
Yes.
And who kills the babies?
Papa, me, Elisa. And
Who kills the babies?
Papa.
And what, he gets you to help him?
Yes.
Shoot.
So he tells us to hold the hand on the knife, and then he holds his hand on our hand, so then he cuts the baby's head off.
But nobody was talking about satanic ritual abuse. Nobody was talking about how by forcing these children to watch adults murder animals such as horses, dogs, cats in front of them, and then also making them participate in it, that it caused trauma-based mind control on these children, that they were threatened by these adults, told that if they told anyone about these things, that they would do the same thing to them and their families. The reason that so many children ended up coming forward is because they felt safe and protected hearing about other children come forward. It triggered a mass awakening where these kids didn't fear that they were alone. where they were hiding these things in their head. They felt comfortable. They felt safe telling their parents about this now because they heard other children talking about it. Parents were asking their children if any weird things were going on at school, and they were openly telling them about it because they weren't afraid anymore. The trauma that they were put through is what caused them in the first place not to come forward with these allegations. But nobody talks about that because nobody believes in trauma-based mind control, even though we know our government has been using it for quite a long time. Even though we know that trauma-based mind control goes back to the Book of the Dead in ancient Egypt, the same book that these Satanists study and use. Eventually, the trial started becoming a mess because the focus, like I said earlier, was on the interviews with the children because they were using naked dolls and showing the adults the sexual positions that they were put in by the teachers at McMartin as well as other people who were dressed up as druids. Eventually, 5 of the 7 people accused were acquitted. But charges were still pending against Ray Bucky and his mother, Peggy McMartin Bucky, who was called a spiritual woman. During the trial, George Freeman was called as a witness and testified that Ray Bucky had confessed to him while sharing a cell that he had sodomized children using oil, baby oil, and KY, lubrication. Eventually, his testimony was dismissed because Mr. Freeman had committed perjury in other criminal cases. And this is what you get when you get a DA and you get people who don't believe in satanic ritual abuse, who don't believe that there's Satanists and cults operating underground in our world. They went to the school and they looked around and they said, we don't see any bones on the tables. We don't see any blood on the tables. What are these kids talking about? How could they have been locked up in certain rooms when these rooms don't exist? Because they didn't look underneath the school. The dirt had been filled in conveniently. And it goes to show you people who are unequipped and unaware of SRA, of the occult, of these Satanists who run amok on our society, who have been using, mutilating, and devouring children for centuries. These people who aren't aware of it or refuse to believe that it's real are part of the problem. That's how these people get away with these things. Now, we know they control the courts. We know they control the media as well, and they can manipulate the masses into thinking this stuff's not real. But we know that it's real, and it's been going on. And this trial was the closest thing ever to waking up an entire world who is sound asleep. But it's been covered up. You can't find many testimonies online. You can't find many of the news clips online unless you find propaganda that makes the Buckies look like they were the victims in this case. That makes satanic ritual abuse look like a crazy conspiracy theory known as satanic panic, the same thing that the Satanists use now to continue to deflect attention off of these things. It's a trigger word, just like conspiracy theory is a trigger word, just like fake news is a trigger word. They can attach it to anything and they can get the masses to roll their eyes because they've been conditioned and programmed with these words to believe that these are things that are not real. Another interesting thing to note during the trial is that when Ray Bucky took the stand, guess what was found out about Ray Bucky? Ray Bucky's fascination with pyramids. Ray Bucky's studying of the pyramids, how he had a hat that was shaped like a pyramid that he wore on his head, just like Aleister Crowley wore, that he hung over his bed. Of course, when the DA brought this up in his bizarre fascination with pyramids and some of these conventions that he was flying to, where he was learning and communicating with others that were into black magic and mysticism.
Let's talk about pyramids again. Are these your books?
Yes.
You think it's normal for a man your age to believe in pyramids?
Well, I laugh about it now.
You laugh about it now, but you weren't laughing about it then.
No, I guess I wasn't.
You see an item on this table called a radon?
Yeah, but that's just what it's called. It has nothing to do with me.
That's not what I asked you. Isn't it true that a radome is supposed to have 40 times the effectiveness of a regular pyramid?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation as to the wattage of the radome.
Now,
what is this?
It's a pyramid hat. A pyramid hat. Like this? It's backwards.
Mr. Bucky, is it possible that pyramid power drove you to molest children?
No.
Is it possible that pyramid power blanked out your mind so you forgot horrible events, like molesting children?
No.
The defense and the people in attendance started laughing as if it was a joke because they're not understanding of what this is all about. They don't understand Aleister Crowley's teachings because all of this stuff has been hidden. And they hear things like this and they can use humor to deflect attention off of children who were ritually abused, forced to drink animal blood, forced to be involved in the sacrificing of children, raped, molested, forced to perform sexual acts on grown-ups. But no, the attention continues to be deflected off of the severity, just like we see today. Just like we see right now going on around our world. There's Pizzagate, we've all heard about that, but no victims have come forward in Pizzagate. I hear people say Pizzagate's the biggest thing that's ever happened, it's going to blow everything open. This was the biggest thing that ever happened, McMartin. That could have potentially blown the doors down. But it was covered up. Police who were involved in the case were reportedly also involved in these satanic sexual rings. The story was covered up, and now you can't find boo on it. The only things out there are stories that portray the Buckys as victims. But thankfully, there was a man, Ted Gunderson, who I've talked about many times, who was a former head of the FBI in Los Angeles, who came forward in between Bucky's two trials, because when Bucky and Peggy McMartin got off, there was a second trial trying to convict Ray Bucky. And Ted Gunderson went to the location of where the McMartin preschool was and excavated it, brought in professionals to dig. What they found was that the dirt had been filled in. It was not the same dirt that was originally there. So they dug and they pulled out the dirt that was different from the natural dirt that was there. And they found underground tunnels. They found plates with the pentagram drawn on it. They found bones of animals, and they found tunnels that led to an airport. When Ted Gunderson investigated this, he found that the children had been flown up to a specific location in the mountains. And conveniently, that location had burned to the ground. But what they found there were all types of satanic writings and drawings all over the walls and all over the left ground, as well as the altars that were found there. Satanic altars, the same things that these children reported on, the same thing that got ignored in this trial. Gunderson tried to present this evidence to the DA and to others, and they refused to accept it and told him to stay out of the case.
McMartin case. The McMartin case broke in the early 1980s. The children claimed that after they were dropped off by their parents at this preschool, Manhattan Beach, California, they were involved in various ceremonies, including ceremonies in a chamber underneath the school. They claimed there were tunnels under the school. They claimed they were molested under the school. They claimed there were children that were sacrificed. The satanic type ceremonies, adults in robes chanting without any clothes underneath them, candles, the whole 9 yards. The authorities went out in 1985, claimed they looked for evidence of the tunnels. The kids said, in addition to the tunnels, that they were flown up into the mountains, Crestline in particular, or at least to the mountains. They didn't name Crestline, they were too young to know the difference, by jet airplanes. So I did some checking on my own. You can flip it. And as a result, in the early April 1991, I gained access to the property. And from the access, I hired archaeologists, Dr. Gary Stickle at UCLA. He brought in a team of individuals, professionals, and we dug for tunnels under the school. Whereas the authorities could not find the tunnels and subsequently stated that the children were hallucinating, there's nothing to it, we found the tunnels ourselves. And these are, Sue, I think we're kind of out of order there. Can you kind of watch me and we can, Bryce, can you kind of watch me because, huh? Well, they were in order. Okay, this is an example of the school. We went out and dug it up and went down and looked into the cross of the dirt. What happens is when you go take a cross section straight down, you can see foreign dirt that had been filled into the tunnels. Keep going, Sue. That's the entrance to the tunnel under the Dog West classroom. Keep going, Sue. Now, the interesting fact here is that these avocado roots were live. There was a dead avocado root over here, which meant that the entrance to the tunnel, there was a 9-foot entrance that had been cut as so. Keep going, Sue. Upside down. Other way. Yeah, keep going. Other way. That was the concrete, oh, keep going around. That's it. That was the arch between classroom 3 and classroom 4. It was actually arch, and that was the tunnel that went through there. This was a pentagram that we found on the plate in the sandbox. We found this Disney bag, plastic Disney bag, copyright 1982, 1983, in the entrance of the tunnel, actually under the foundation, so it could not have been placed there in 1966 when the building was built. It had to be placed there sometime subsequent to 1982. The tunnel's been filled in. Keep going, Sue. This is the live avocado root that I mentioned to you a few moments ago, and some more. And this is a diagram of the tunnel entrance. There's the live avocado root. There's a dead one. And that was, as I said, about 9 feet across. Another diagram. That's where we found the plastic Disney bag right there. Keep going. And that's the diagram of the school. There is the west entrance that I showed you just a few moments ago. That's the chamber. The tunnel went across the 4th classroom to the 3rd classroom. We didn't have time to explore it further. We ran out of money and also time. We were kicked off the lot, actually. There's a tunnel here. The children claimed that they were taken up into the triplex of the next door, the bathroom of the triplex. There was a trap door there, and taken out into the community and prostituted. We found that the trap door in the bathroom of the triplex next door. Keep going, sir. They keep going. The kids said that they were taken up into the mountains, flown up into the mountains. I had an informant that told me that she had an idea of where the children were taken. Abandoned satanic site now, by the way. And this was up in Crestline. These are pictures of the site. It was built on the side of the mountain. Just keep going, sir. It was impossible to see it from the street. You could only see it from down below, and it didn't mean anything because it was so many miles away, or from a helicopter or an airplane. You can see the massive size of it. The street was over on the top there, so anybody driving down the street could not have seen what was going on down here. This is, I'm sure, where some of the ceremonies were taking place of the kids who were flown up there. Keep going. That's probably, I don't know what that is. But I think it's about 9 feet across. What would that be, sir? Altar? Okay. It's down in there. It's where the site is. This would be where the street is, so you can see you couldn't see it. Keep going. That's probably, that was an altar we think that was broken, a big stone. 666, that was carved in one of the rocks. That was a large circle with all kinds of writing. I couldn't get up high enough to take it all in and get it all on one picture, or a series of pictures. That was in the dungeon. They had a dungeon with a drop hole. The hole was probably about 2.5 by 3 feet, and it was about 10 feet down. It was below the surface. The ceiling was probably about 8 feet high. I think that's where they killed their captives before they sacrificed them. Some ovens that were on the property. This is a sign, and you can take the next slide and put it overlay it on top of it. And can you see it there? Oh, turn it around. Turn the overlay. Yeah, that's it. And this is one of the signs that was there. Can you read that up there, Sue? Yeah, read it out loud. It was a seal of one of the satanic signs. Go ahead, take the next one. And put the overlay on top of it. Armistice Day.
It's upside down.
Okay, that's all right. Go on to the next slide. Some more of the site. This is looking over the edge. This would have been where the abandoned satanic site was. Over the edge, you can see that there's no way that you could see it from down below. This is the road that goes down to San Bernardino. These are the 8 basic satanic holidays. We have one coming up, Halloween, very shortly. Witches celebrate the dead. And the next calendar is a more detailed list of the holidays, satanic holidays during the year. Just flip them over real fast. Tells in detail about the purpose of each holiday, sexual climax and so forth, blood and so forth. Okay? Now, during the McMartin case, at the time that it broke, I called the U.S. attorney, not the U.S. attorney, but the district attorney, and I told him, I talked to Leo Rubin, who was the prosecutor. I said, I think I know where the children were taken up in the mountains, and I'd be glad to take you up there and maybe have the children go. Just turn it off a minute. Have the children go up and maybe they can identify it. She said she wasn't interested. During the second trial, the first trial, Ray Buckey had a hung jury. Second trial, we discovered the tunnels under the school. I called the district attorney. They came out, a fellow named Perez, investigator, said he wasn't interested. There weren't tunnels there. He wanted to argue with the archaeologists. They could have used the tunnels in the second trial. They didn't. Why? The children identified an actor, household name politicians, professional baseball players, professional football players. In my opinion, it was a major cover-up.
This is how they operate. This is how they get away with stuff. These types of stories are the most important stories that have ever happened in our lifetime. Because these are the stories that expose what's really going on. That politicians, that celebrities are involved with trafficking children, that they use businesses such as nurseries as fronts. Now they no longer really can use nurseries after this trial happened because all of these nurseries began getting examined with a microscope by people. They created laws where parents could come in at any time into these nurseries anytime they wanted to see what was going on with their children. Now we see the fronts as laundromats, as pizza parlors, as restaurants, as other businesses around the country. They're used as fronts, and they use symbols to show and communicate exactly what these businesses are so that these pedophiles and these Satanists who control our society can be aware of where this is going on in their town so they know and can be involved. I urge people to share this video and share this story with others out there so that they're aware. This is the stuff that should be taught in schools. This is the stuff we should still be talking about. But they won't mention this in the news unless they're saying, oh, you mean the satanic panic? And this is exactly why Anton LaVey's church was set up. It was set up before this happened, but now we see the Satanic Temple and the Satanic churches used as fronts. They are used as fronts to deflect attention off of these things, to attack anyone who comes forward with talking about SRA, satanic ritual abuse. And the masses have bought it hook, line, and sinker. And we, as followers of Christ, or just citizens of the United States of America, should demand that proper investigations are done when children come forward speaking about people dressed in cloaks, watching animals be murdered and mutilated, babies decapitated, forced to eat fetuses, all of this stuff. We should demand proper investigations are done. And that this illusion that the children are making up these stories, that all of these kids around the world in this specific case who came forward were all making it up. They all just happen to have crazy imaginations about druids, about Satanism, about pedophilia, stuff that they couldn't even comprehend. We demand justice. The children are not making these stories up because we know that this is what they do. We know that these people worship Aleister Crowley, the man who calls himself the Beast. We know that this has been going on since Babylon and it hasn't stopped. What has changed is that they've done this stuff in secrecy for centuries, and they would get cast out by Christians. They would get hung, they would get killed, they would get exposed time after time. They created this matrix as a safety net for them. They use mind control to manipulate people into falling into believing in all this fake stuff going on around the world, such as the left versus the right, such as what's going on in the Middle East, such as these are the people we should stereotype, such as the race war. All of these distractions, all of these fear-based things that they create are all there to put people's perceptions of what the world is into a box. They never hear about this stuff because they don't want this stuff to ever get out there. So when people like me talk about it, they go, you're out of your mind. You're out of control. Where's the evidence? Where's the proof? How many children need to come forward and claim to be victims of satanic ritual abuse? Why would they do it? What would their intention be? To come forward and lie at the age of 3 years old that they were molested and were involved in drinking animal blood and human sacrifice. The same thing we saw at Hampstead with these children who came forward. It's the same story time and time again. But because the masses have been conditioned through movies to think that that stuff is fictional and crazy, and they've been triggered with words such as satanic panic, the truth can never get out there because people cannot wrap their head around this stuff. Their heads will explode if they realize what was really going on. And when we do bring this up to people, they just shake their head because it's too much information for them to comprehend. They can't handle it. So they dismiss it as crazy or a conspiracy because they don't have the time or the energy to investigate it. But we need to have the time and the energy to investigate these things because every single day, children who are being abducted and molested, and of course there's cases where there are just sick individuals who are pedophiles and perverts, but the large amount of trafficking going on revolves around the occult and Satanism. These children are used in satanic rituals. They are locked in cages. They are locked in boxes, forced to sleep with snakes and other reptiles. These people who do this are soulless. But us as Christians, we need to make people aware of this. And I refuse to sit back and not go after Satanism, not go after these Satanists out there who come across as a front and go, oh, we're just atheists. Oh, we don't do this kind of stuff. Because it's a lie, and anyone with discernment should be able to see through their lies. I hope you found this information helpful. If you're somebody who follows the channel, whether you like the channel or not, I urge you to please share this information with people so people can become aware of these things. Because there's children's lives at stake every single day as a result of these Satanists who ritually abuse them, who have no soul, who look at these kids as if they're nothing but rag dolls. And it's an absolute shame, and it breaks my heart, and it should break your heart too. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families.